Hush. Shush. I think I hear him coming.
That's most definitely not Dad. That's just the dog.
Clyde exclaimed with an utter sense of confidence and pride in his ability to always be right.
Why do we even have to all be here ducking and dodging, like we're little children?
If you have other pressing matters or anywhere you would rather be, please feel free to excuse yourself if you are going to exhibit such a contemptuous attitude all night.
I'm sorry. You know how I get around so many people. Especially around some unscrupulous characters I would rather not mention.
It's the least we can do, Clyde. Considering all the drama that has been going on in our family lately and what happened to your dad.
Mom!
Bonnie says with a gentle tenderness, cutting in between Clyde and Lily.
Yes, Bonnie, my love.
I love you.
I know, Bonnie, my dear, I love you more.
Bonnie proceeds to reach in to peck her mother on the cheek.
Why do you always have to come in between adults having a mature conversation?
Clyde exclaims while pushing his sister away from Lily.
I strongly doubt there was anything mature about that conversation. You were probably nagging at Mom, telling her how you can't wait to leave.
You know your brother all too well. You guys are peas in a pod. Did I ever tell you how we came about your names?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mom.
Mom.
They both exclaimed with the feeling they had heard this story more than 1,000,000 times.
You and Dad love the movie Bonnie and Clyde, which so happens to be the first movie you watched together on your first date.
Bonnie says also casually, while trying to leave the scene. But then she looks at her mum and realizes the thought of it has brought a smile to her face. A facial expression which is very seldom seen since Lily is usually on a concoction of antidepressants and red wine. Lily's eyes light up with a smile, and she looks at both Bonnie and Clyde.
That was one of the greatest movies of all time. A magical moment in cinema history. I really doubt you kids would ever get to experience such brilliance in your entire lives.
Right. So, we have what we called the internet. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Okay, well, not Facebook, forget I mentioned that. It's totally lame these days. Yeah, but we have drones as well and 5G. I bet you there was nothing in your time that comes close to being able to video call your significant other in real time while being halfway across the world.
Clyde gives off a smile, as though he had just reversed the decision of a jury who had placed a guilty verdict on his defendant.
That's the problem with you Gen Z, or whatever they're calling you these days. You think you know it all. Always quick to disregard everyone else's experience, as though a couple of years ago you were not in diapers and sucking a dummy while your bums were wiped by your nannies, and every other second sentence was you crying for mommy.
Lily made an expression that imitated a baby sobbing and wiping its eyes as though it had been left unattended and had cried its eyes out.
Speaking of which, Clyde wet the bed till he was 7.
Bonnie said, while bursting into uncontrollable laughter.
It was a legit condition. Dr. Hurwitz said it was juvenile incontinence.
Clyde replied, but was not embarrassed as this subject had been brought up countless times, and he had developed thick skin from countless sessions of mockery.
Wow. Juvenile incontinence. Did you Google that, or did you just make that up yourself?
Bonnie asked with the utmost sense of sarcasm and rhetoricity.
Dr. Hurwitz stated on numerous occasions he never gave such a diagnosis.
Anyway, you kids, before I lose my train of thought.
Bonnie and Clyde glance at each other to sort of give off the impression that Lily losing her train of thought was a very common occurrence.
Your dad and I were the most envied couple in the entire city. He had just taken over the bakery and things were going great. I met your father at the bakery. I lived a couple of blocks away and I bought bread there every single day. He asked me out on a date and I said, yes. We went to watch Bonnie and Clyde, which was still airing in the cinemas many years after its release. It was the most romantic thing I had ever experienced. It was by far the most glamorous place I had ever laid eyes on. About 6 months later, we were married, and shortly after, Bonnie joined our merry duo. Soon after, we became a complete quartet with you, Clyde.
Clyde had his hand to his chin and pretended he was dozing off, as if to imply he had heard this story 1,000 times.
Mom, you've told us this story like 1,000,000 times, if not a gazillion times already.
Clyde exclaimed, which was succeeded by a deep sigh projecting mental exhaustion.
Excuse me, madam.
One of the waiters interrupted,
Would you like some more wine?
proceeding to top Lily's glass up with some more of her favorite Chardonnay, Les Bon Garçon.
I think that's enough for my mother. Thank you.
Bonnie suggested while using her hand to cover her mother's glass.
Fill me up.
Lily demanded as she struggled to reach the waiter, who had already taken the hint that she had had one too many drinks for the evening, considering the celebrant had not yet arrived and the night was still relatively young. As the waiter went on to pour out the contents of the bottle, Lily gives off a signal the waiter is not pouring enough to meet her sudden thirst for wine, and then she proceeds to snatch the bottle from the waiter's hand and gives him a signal to take his leave. The waiter pauses to get a reaction from either Bonnie or Clyde in an attempt to wash his hands of her decision, as he is obliged to obey her wishes, since she is in more ways than any one of his employers for the evening.
It's fine. That will be all.
Bonnie says with a "here we go again" tone.
I'm a grown woman, and I can handle myself quite well. You know, I raised the both of you single-handedly while your father was off on his trips.
Lily said, while making a quote-unquote gesture at the word trips. This clearly gave off the impression to Bonnie and Clyde their mother had not gotten over the scandal, which led to their parents' divorce about 5 years ago, leaving them caught in the middle of a very toxic relationship between both parents.
We're grown now, Mom, and it's our turn to take care of you.
Bonnie says while gently whisking the bottle of wine from her hand and filling her own cup with some of its contents, in an attempt to cleverly reduce the total amount that she would end up consuming.
I'm extremely famished. When is Dad getting here? He usually closes from the office at 7, and it takes about an hour through New York traffic to get here.
I bet our guests are already wondering if Dad is going to show or not.
Clyde says while checking the time on the grand clock stationed in the center of the room. Bonnie, on the other hand, sweeps the room with her eyes, looking to evaluate the situation of each of the guests, through body language, contents of their glasses, and also if they were engaged in conversation, as most guests had paired themselves all across the room engaging in small talk in anticipation of the arrival of the celebrant. It was a combination of her mother and father's close friends, family and business associates, some familiar, others not so much. Foreigners, mostly Asian businessmen who were in for a couple of days and were invited on short notice for what they hoped would be the surprise party of the decade. Pockets of people were scattered around the ground floor. Some had made their way to the art and music room and were caught up in admiration of the vast art collection and musical instruments collected by the Brown family over their extensive travels across the world. As much as it was a house filled with family memorabilia and exotic furniture, one could get the sense it was empty. Many rooms were no longer in use, and most were filled with dust, mold and furniture covered in white linen. The phrase, "Love don't live here anymore," and the lyrics to the 1978 Rolls-Royce classic would easily come to mind if you ventured to the upper floors of the estate. Even though the entire family was presently entertaining guests in living quarters, it was obvious this massive house was a shell of a place which once accommodated love, but suddenly didn't anymore.
Well, you know your dad. He's probably out with some younger, perkier version of the last person he slept with.
You don't know that for sure. Just because things didn't work out between the two of you doesn't mean he goes to bed with everything that has two legs.
Bonnie said with discontent. It was obvious Lily had struck a nerve, judging by Bonnie's sudden change in mood and the most eager feeling to leave her mother's presence. She turned and said,
Maybe if you weren't so judgmental and drunk all the time, you would have been present in your marriage to salvage what was left of it.
There was silence in the room. The mood that was ever so pleasant had come to an abrupt pause, as Bonnie looked back only to realize she had not controlled the volume nor the tone of her voice, which had somehow overpowered the classical jazz that was coming from the center of the living room. All attention was drawn to where Bonnie stood, which was right in front of Lily and Clyde. Lily burst out laughing, too embarrassed for a comeback and too late for one either, she chooses to laugh it off.
Well, I guess that makes me single and ready to mingle.
Her poor attempt at a comeback is met with awkward smirks and subtle giggles. The only group seem to be unenthused by this are the Asian businessmen who are looking for their translator to explain what exactly happened, but the translator is out getting a smoke. Lily plays it cool as she slips out of the room, as though she wanted to see what was happening with the flow of refreshments from the kitchen.
Bonnie, what is wrong with you?
Clyde said while grabbing Bonnie's arm.
Why do you always have to be so harsh to Mom? And here you are accusing her of being so judgmental, when it's easy to see the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know, the both of you are way more alike than you would like to admit.
Let go of my arm. Clyde, you are hurting me.
Bonnie exclaimed as she regained possession of her arm from Clyde's rather intrusive grip.
What the heck do you know? Clyde, you were too young to even know what was going on. I was the one who had to witness them fighting all the time. Things got so loud and heated, no one could get any sleep. We lost 3 nannies to Mom, always accusing Dad of sleeping with them. He was never good enough for her. It was always about one extramarital affair, or the other till it broke our family apart. You still don't get it, do you? It was because of Mom we never got to really know Dad.
Bonnie says as she storms out into the courtyard. Clyde realizes he can't follow her outside, so he proceeds to track his mother to the kitchen in an attempt to defuse the whole situation. As Clyde swings the door to the restaurant-styled fully equipped kitchen, he notices his mother is nowhere in the room. He then proceeds to ask one of the chefs, who seems too busy whipping the meringue for the macaroons, to notice anyone coming in or leaving the kitchen. He signals him and asks if he had seen his mum.
Sorry, I don't know.
The chef shrugs his shoulders as he returns to whipping. Clyde feels a gentle tap behind him, the gentle tap that could only come from a mother. He turns expecting to be gazed by his mom's aquamarine eyes, but is met with brown eyes of African descent. It is one of the female chefs who points downward towards the wine cellar.
She went down to the cellar just less than a minute ago.
Thank you kindly.
Clyde slowly walked down the stairs, as though he had been stalking a prey and finally caught it in a corner, without need to rush his approach. He slowly opens the cellar door to find his mum backing the door in a sobbing position, crying uncontrollably. It seems what Bonnie said in front of all those guests really got to her. Lily realizes through her senses that there is someone else in the room and tries to arrange herself so as not to be seen crying. She turns around to see who it is and finds her son Clyde in the doorway staring at her, like a pity case.
Don't tell me you've come all this way to rub it in. I'm not in the mood.
Mom, you need to stop letting what Bonnie says get to you like that. You are the strongest woman I know. And I hate to see you like this.
Clyde says, while embracing his mum with a hug, as she continues to sob on his chest.
I can't help but think she is right. I let my obsession for your dad get the best of me, which led me on a downward spiral into depression, eventually leading to self-loathing and alcohol addiction. It's been 5 years, and it still feels like yesterday I reluctantly signed those papers. A decision I seem to regret even to this day. Where did it all go wrong? Did I not love him enough, or maybe I loved him just too much?
For Clyde, this was about the most rhetorical question his ears had ever heard, and coming from his mum, sent a barge of all kinds of negative feelings ranging from sadness to anger, irritability to disagreement, concurrence and pity, leaving him torn in the crossroads of who to side, because deep down, Clyde loved his dad as much, if not more than he did his mom. He knew his dad's vices. He knew so many things she didn't, and he wasn't about to tell her, especially not now, which would only further add weight to the cross she was hopelessly carrying. While they were still in a mother-son embrace, the rushing steps of a somewhat eager newsbearer could be heard from the inside of the cellar, getting ever closer towards them. Realizing they were in an emotionally compromising position, Clyde and Lily quickly let go of one another, and tried arrange themselves before whoever was approaching opened the cellar door. With a quick swing of the door in an inward direction, it was revealed that this news-bearer was Bonnie, who uttered the words,
He's here. Dad's back home. I saw him driving in while I was in the courtyard. Come on, or we will ruin the surprise.
Without a moment to process the animosity that had preceded between them, Bonnie reached for Lily's hand and led the way. And just like an old western train leaving the station, Lily grabbed Clyde's hand and they all ran up the stairs, straight through the kitchen in loud whispering.
The celebrant is home. Everyone, please, stop for a moment and continue when we give the signal as planned.
They all rushed into the living area like they were the three musketeers seeking vengeance on Cardinal Richelieu. Clyde and Bonnie quickly rushed towards the light switches in order to switch them all off, saying,
Everyone, please, take your positions and try to be as quiet as possible.
Luckily, the foyer to the main living room was quite a distance and was located closer to the back of the house, with a connecting door to the pool area. There was just enough time to get everyone into position. The mood was getting exciting and intense, especially for Lily, who had personally put this all together.
Everything is in order.
She thought to herself. There was lots of food, drinks of all kinds to last through the night, cake, ice sculptures, balloons and other decorations, a jazz band.
It's absolutely perfect.
She tells herself as she pondered what could actually go wrong with a well-planned night such as this, being an extremely meticulous project manager such as herself. The room started to silence down completely as the guests waited for the celebrant. All of a sudden, the silence in the room sort of amplified the sounds coming from the other rooms in the house. At first it was faint, but the sound of laughter could be heard slowly approaching the room everyone was in. It was the laughter of two individuals, one male and most definitely a female, as her laugh was distinctively higher pitched than the other. The laughter got louder and quite sporadic. All of a sudden, the sound of someone running barefoot towards the room the guests were could be observed, and the laughter was right outside the entrance to it. In a split second, Lily knew she had made a terrible mistake, as she had been in this situation before, and she knew her ex-husband all too well. Although, this one time, she had hoped it would be different, and maybe his age would have demanded some form of maturity from him. Maybe, she hoped to use this as an opportunity to reconcile with him, because she herself had started feeling the sting of loneliness, and was eager to let go of her pride to once again feel the embrace of the only man she had ever loved.
Maybe all this was just wishful thinking. People don't change. Certainly, not Milton Brown.
The door opens and everyone shouts in unison. It was a surprise, all right, but this was not the celebrant who opened the door. In came a young lady, most certainly in her early 30s. She held her heart on the account of being scared half to death, quickly covering herself up in shame. Following right behind her is the celebrant, a 60-year-old man, an unbuttoned shirt, a black tie loosely noosed around his collar, with a bottle of Dom Perignon 1955 in one hand and in the other, 2 champagne flutes.
Well, I really don't know what to say. So nice of you to join me on my birthday. You guys are far too kind.
Milton says without the slightest hint of embarrassment, giving that he had already had quite a bit to drink.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Bonnie and Clyde both approached their dad, embarrassed on his behalf, but yet still respectful. Bonnie reaches in to give her dad a kiss on the cheek, but is reluctant at first, not knowing whether it was the appropriate thing to do given the circumstances. She reaches in anyway and gives him a kiss. Clyde, on the other hand, stretches his hand out to give his dad a handshake just after his sister was done, but is pulled in by Milton for a more intimate hug. As Clyde is drawn closer, the smell of brute is all over his dad, clearly giving the impression the reason for his late arrival was he had taken a detour to the Premier Country Club, his dad's favorite pastime, where debauchery and philandering was the order of the day. The jazz band, who were on standby, took the initiative to be proactive and used music to cut through the awkwardness which had already filled the room like a bad smell. The lead singer gives the signal to the band, and a smooth melody starts to emerge from the instruments, which was carefully positioned at the center of the hall-like living area. The melody begins to sound familiar as the instrumentalist begins to fuse sounds with one another. It's a classic 1950s jazz song from the golden era of Motown. The pleasant sound from the band was suddenly interrupted as the sound of the door to the pool area shut, indicating someone had just exited the room in a haste. All eyes gazed at the door, all except for Bonnie, who was looking to the position her mum was before her dad stepped into the room. She noticed she wasn't there anymore, implying she was most definitely the one who had exited the room in a haste. The band kept playing regardless, knowing another moment's silence would send the entire party crashing.
I'll go get her.
Clyde says as he starts making his way, but he is stopped by his sister.
Hold your horses, Clyde. This is most definitely girl talk.
She draws him closer to whisper something in his ears.
Get rid of that skank and make sure Dad is in the proper attire and frame of mind to host the guests.
Sure thing, boss.
Clyde says with a hint of sarcasm. Bonnie gives him the "I'm still your older sister" look while walking towards the direction in which her mom exited the room. Clyde then proceeds to gain the attention of the guests in his grand attempt to steal his dad and neutralize a most awkward situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you would be so kind to make your way through this door and take your seats in the dining room. Dinner would be served shortly. Waiters, please, ensure there is not an empty glass in the building. I think you would all agree the celebrant needs to change into something a little more appropriate for the occasion.
What do you mean, Clyde? I was just about getting into my birthday suit.
A bit of communal humor from the ever-so-charming Milton Brown, who is good with words and comebacks. The crowd of guests laugh, and all seems to be forgiven. After all, it's his birthday, and the mood is one of celebration. In a room filled with the who's who of New York, if not the entire United States. From senators to policymakers, oligarchs and other successful businessmen, who at one time or the other must have been caught with their pants down, so to speak.
I would like to see who amongst us here is without sin. Let them cast the first stone.
These were the thoughts that filled Milton's mind as he reaches for his date with the intention of taking her upstairs with him to the upper rooms to get changed. But an ever-vigilant Clyde interrupts by holding his hand, and with a gentle nudge, he signals to his dad to go on ahead.
Don't worry about her, Dad. You go on ahead. I'll show her to the guest room. She can get dressed there.
Are you sure? Is that okay? What's your name again?
It's Susan. My name is Susan.
Right, that's right, Susan. I just need to get changed really quickly, and I will be right back. I will meet you right here.
He proceeds to the staircase and makes his way to the upper floor. Clyde, on the other hand, holds Susan by the shoulder in an attempt to guide her to the guest room, but she realizes quickly they are going back the exact way they came in. Clyde escorts her all the way to the front door, and while in the foyer, he reaches into his pocket and brings out a stack of $100 bills, grabs her hand and gives it all to her.
Hey, Susan, this is at least $2,000. My driver is in the black Range Rover, just outside the door. He will take you anywhere you need to go. I hope you can be as discreet as possible with the events of this evening.
Can I at least freshen up? In like a guest toilet or something. And also wear my jacket, it's pretty cold outside.
Clyde only realizes then he had been more concerned about getting rid of her. He had been leading a barely clothed lady all through the house with all her belongings in her hands.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right this way. There's a bathroom just right here.
Clyde leads her to one of the guest toilets on the ground floor. He opens the door and gestures for her to go in, closes it behind her and waits outside, as though he wanted to supervise her total departure. As he waits outside, knowing very well the state of his mom, based on the conversation they were having before Bonnie came in with news of their dad's arrival, he couldn't help but wonder if something like this would send his mum further down the rabbit hole of depression, alcohol, and antidepressants.
What a freaking mess.
He thought to himself, as he held his head brushing his hair to the back with his palms, accompanied by a deep sigh. He thought, there was absolutely no way he could get his father out of this one. Unlike the previous times where he would have to take the hit for his dad, when underwear was found in hidden places around the house immediately after the divorce, or that one time a small bag of cocaine was found in the drawers of one of the guest rooms, and he had to lie he was the one who picked it up at a party, knowing very well it was his dad who probably took it to get in the mood on one of his wild party nights. Most of all, he thought about his mom.
My poor mother. This is most definitely the last nail in the coffin.
As various thoughts and feelings were racing through his mind and body, all while staring at the wall, the toilet flushes and out comes Susan, who, speaking of which, had the residue of something rather strange under her nose.
You've got a little something up your nose.
Oopsies.
Susan smiles, as though to say, "You got me." A little embarrassed, she wipes it off and then gestures like she is reaching into her bag.
Would you like a hit? It's really good stuff.
Nah, I'm straight. Thanks.
Oh. Okay. Do you mind if I take a hit for the road? It's been a really long day.
No, I'm afraid not. It would be best if my dad didn't meet you here by the time he gets back, and he should be on his way down any minute now.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
Susan clearly takes the hint and starts heading towards the front door.
Your dad is a real gentleman. Unlike my other clients. He really knows how to treat a lady. I can see where you get your charm from.
She pecks Clyde on the cheek and exits the front door as Clyde closes it behind her with a sigh of good riddance. With only a moment to catch his breath, he thinks for a split second before quickly making his way to the upper rooms to check on his dad. Moving hurriedly through the corridors, headed straight for the master bedroom. He gives a 3-tap knock before opening, not like a servant of the house, but more of a formality to avoid seeing something he would later find hard to wash out of his photographic memory. He opens the door, gives a quick scan only to find the room empty. In all honesty, he had expected to find his dad passed out on the bed, but then notices the sound of the shower running and steam coming out from the ensuite bathroom.
Dad, are you there?
Clyde calls out.
Yeah, hold on. I'll be out in just a minute.
The sound of the shower stops, and out of the bathroom comes Milton, with a towel around his waist and another towel in hand over his head as he tries to dry his hair intensely. He seems to have sobered up a notch. Most probably the effect of a hot steam bath, or maybe he just had enough time in the shower to think about the implications of his dramatic entrance and the need to keep up with the Milton Brown act in front of his guests.
What's her name again?
Susan.
Clyde retorted while he helps his dad pick out something to wear from his wardrobe.
Yeah, where is she?
She's gone. I sent her home.
Oh, thank God. Last thing I need this evening is drama. I'm sorry about earlier, Clyde. I really didn't think you guys would put something like this together.
I know. I should have given you a heads up, Dad.
No, Clyde, don't blame yourself. It would not have been a surprise now, would it?
He asked rhetorically as he gestured to shadowbox Clyde in the gut area. Clyde loved his dad extremely so, to the point his dad could do no wrong. No matter what trick his dad pulled out his hat of many vices, Clyde would always tend to find some rationale for his behavior, and in turn, find a reason to forgive him. Over the years, Milton had fallen short of his son's grace. From his failure to be at his children's birthday parties, because he was on some international business trip, to his absence at Clyde's graduation ceremony because his bakery business had just been listed in the stock exchange, and many other little incidents like that. His mother had tried to poison his mind about his dad's failure to be at those events as a way to win him over to her side, as she had grown bitter from being neglected by her husband, Milton. But time and time again, Clyde would make up an excuse in his mind to justify his absence and eventually find a way to move on.
Could you pass me a golf top instead?
Which one?
The black one. The long-sleeve Ralph Lauren on the second shelf. You know black is my favorite color, right? and our original surname translated from Greek means black, literally. But I changed it to Brown because we came to America at a very delicate time. And the last thing I wanted to do was add fuel to the fire. Or so I thought. Turns out, Black is actually a really cool surname. Anyway,
Milton gets fully dressed after Clyde passes him the top he had asked for. He then tells Clyde to go on ahead to check on his mom to make sure she's all right. It seems Milton has come to understand his abrupt entry has had an adverse effect on the entire mood of the celebration. Clyde leaves the room a bit reluctantly, realizing his dad had sobered up. However, his demeanor was one of a man who was just about to fall into a pit of regret and self-pity. Milton wanted to be alone, at least for a little while so he could gather his thoughts, since he was about to go spend the next 3 to 4 hours with friends and family in endless small talk and pretentious conversations. A typical Cancerian. He needed some time to recuperate in his shell, as the strain he felt accompanying long periods of human interaction was something he did his best to manage, through sessions of solitude and reflection. Milton was the type of individual who would avoid a conversation, especially an unintelligent one. He absolutely despised small talk and egocentricity, a very common attribute found in most people within his social class. The constant need to place oneself at the center of the universe through meaningless accolades and petty accomplishments. As he sat there reflecting on his life, looking at all the clothes in his wardrobe, the shoes in his walk-in closet, the expensive ultra-modern furniture, the 85-inch 8K OLED screen TV, the high roofs and marbled floors, a paradoxical feeling of unaccomplishment started creeping in. He justifies. The only reason he even took a shower at this time was because there were guests who were waiting in the lower levels of the house, which he had no choice but to go sit with and entertain. He thought to himself,
just a little longer. I'd really like to be here, all by myself, for just a little longer.
He reached for the drawers beside the bed on the right side, the side he usually slept on. In the top drawer was an old picture of himself, Lily, Bonnie and Clyde, a picture of the better days which seemed to be of all so distant memory. In the picture was a much younger Milton and Lily, and they seemed to be very happy. Bonnie was about 8 years old and Clyde had just turned 5 years, as he was the center of the moment, wearing a cowboy hat blowing out his birthday candle, which was a wax 5 with red trim. This was the only personal picture Milton kept of himself and his family in the house. Other pictures of Milton were photographs framed by magazine media outlets and other professional photographers during award ceremonies and other high society events, which were riddled all across the walls of his 9-bedroom Hudson Yard mansion. The longer he stared at the photo, the more lost in thought he got, to the point he became deeply emotional. The only other contents in that drawer were 2 items: a gold wedding band with "Blood of My Blood" inscribed on the inside and a .357 special he kept for protection. He reached for the ring and read the words out loud to himself.
Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, agapimo.
He attempts to lay back on the bed and dwell on these 2 items he's holding when all of a sudden, there was a gentle knock on the door.
Yeah, who is it?
Excuse me, sir. The guests have been served the entrees and they are wondering if you would be joining them in the dining area.
Yeah, sure. I'll be down in just a minute.
He sits up, puts the 2 items back in the drawer. He puts the ring in first and then gives the photograph one last look before kissing it and placing it back gently facing down. He got up and adjusted his shirt, a couple sprays of Safari Cologne by Ralph Lauren, and he exits the room, making his way to the dining area. As he walked down the staircase towards the foyer, he notices a lady with her back towards him, holding her coat with Bonnie and Clyde on her left and right respectively. Bonnie and Clyde stared at their dad coming down the stairs, and the lady turned around to see what they were both looking at. It was Lily. She was on her way out as Milton caught them in the foyer. They were both convincing her to stay a while longer, since it was her idea to throw a surprise party for their dad in the first place. When Lily realizes it was Milton coming down the stairs, she ventures even closer to the front door to make her exit.
Lily, wait, where are you going?
What do you care, Milton? I don't want to be in the way of the birthday boy and his cake. It seems you already had plans, and here we are raining on your parade.
Parade? What parade? Don't be ridiculous. There is no parade, and there is most certainly no rain.
Milton walks directly towards Lily, as though he was trying to get close enough to ooze off his irresistible charm on her and get her to stay.
Please, Lily, you know how I get around too many people. Not to mention, this whole party was your idea. Please, just one drink and a dance. I promise. Then you can leave. Besides, how often do we all get together like this?
Come on, Mom. Please stay. Once we're done here, we can go get some Italian ice cream on the way home. My treat.
Oh, okay, just one drink. But keep this cradle-snatching pervert far away from me.
She hands Bonnie her jacket and bag, flicks her hair, then adjusts her dress. She locks arms with Bonnie and proceeds to walk back towards the dining room, all while paying no attention to Milton. Although her behavior seems somewhat cold and distant, Milton cannot help but think to himself he still has his charm and her PIN code. He looks at Clyde and gives him a wink, who immediately winks back and smiles like, "You old devil, you." Milton follows closely behind, pouncing like a lion who had just defeated the alpha male of an opposing tribe and now escorts his female concubines to his lair. On getting to the dining area, all the guests are already having their starters. Some too hungry to wait for the celebrant to arrive already started digging in, and others followed. Bonnie and Lily made their way to the extreme left of the dining table, which had 2 empty seats. Milton watched them walk all the way, and sort of wondered where his seat was, but at a second glance knew it was reserved to the right. He knew this because there were huge balloons that read, "Happy Birthday Milton Brown," an ice sculpture which was shaped in the form of a basket of assorted bread and a massive chocolate cake on a separate table to the right of it. As he made his way over his designated seat, he only then begins to catch a glimpse of all the guests who were in attendance for the evening. Successful friends and colleagues from every area of life. As he gazed across the room, smiling and waving like a presidential candidate who was running for the first time. He noticed friends like Senator Kimberly Fields, who was the current Speaker in the House of Senate, Jacob Westwood, Chairman for the National Rifle Association, Thomas Radley, owner of the New York Street Journal, Patel Singh, CEO of Neurobyte, a tech company specializing in groundbreaking neurological enhancement. To his left was Ziyong Pang, a shrewd Chinese businessman who dealt in the import and export of flour, accompanied by his 2 male attachés and his female interpreter. Further down the table was Phil Morris, retired NFL coach for the New York Giants, along with his wife. Also marking the register was Mr. Babatunde Alobi, a prominent Nigerian oil and gas tycoon who flew in from the Niger Delta region just for the occasion. He and Milton were very good friends, and he had never missed a birthday of Milton's for 27 years since they both completed their masters at Harvard Business School.
Lover boy. How far now? Still up to your old tricks, I see.
Babatunde shouted from across the table, laughing out loud as he tried to sip on his soup at the same time to no avail.
Where are your goats, brother? I hope you didn't leave them on the plane this time.
Milton replied, an in-house joke they had both shared since their days at the university.
Haha. Still isn't funny, Milton. Wasn't funny then, and most definitely isn't funny now. Oh, and by the way, how's your donkey riding business going?
Babatunde replied with a weak jab for a counter-attack. Milton had once shared stories about how Cypriots would rear donkeys and give them names of famous car companies, oftentimes painting their logos on their bodies just so children could ride on them in circles while they were attached to a stick. Also present were Milton's first cousins on his mother's side, Pambos and Stelios Eleftheriades, owners of Newmark washing machines, who were in their late 50s, approaching the 6th floor without any hint of slowing down. They both drank a lot, not a genetic addictive personality trait, but more of a way to escape the pressure from their wives, who also happened to be sisters. They never went to social events with them, and were not going to start now. They were escorted by 2 younger women, who most likely were members of their staff. Also from Milton's family was his favorite nephew, Xenios Mavros, his late older cousin's only son, who was more like a son to him. He took Xenios under his wing from the age of 12, taught him everything about the baking business, and set him up with a couple of franchises to run up north. Xenios had been in many ways directly responsible for the success of the King Crustacean franchises in Boileau, Albany, Rochester, and Utica. His knowledge of brand architecture was what took the business from being a good bakery to becoming a nationwide sensation, with ingenious marketing schemes aimed at diversifying their core products, from a direct sales patisserie to wholesale packaged commodities and nationwide distribution. Milton had considered on numerous occasions making Xenios the heir to his baking empire, since Clyde was not interested in the baking business, but was more into video game, software, UI and UX interface development through his own company, Oink Innovations. Xenios and his wife were sitting close to him on the first seat on the left from the center. On the right side was a vacant seat, which obviously was reserved for Clyde. Even though Clyde was not interested in the baking business, Milton still considered him his right-hand man, and he was very close to his boy. They did so many things together, following the time Clyde graduated college. Maybe it was Milton's way of making up for all the absence in Clyde's childhood, but he made sure they became best of friends, rather than have a mediocre father and son relationship. From the way the seating arrangement was placed, if this were a festive gathering for King Arthur, in this case Milton Brown, one could dub Xenios his Merlin, a wise and trusted advisor, and Clyde would be Sir Lancelot, his most trusted knight and friend. The only thing wrong with that picture was that Arthur's Guinevere was on the opposite end of this table, and in many lights would be dubbed Morgan Le Fay rather than Guinevere, as she had slowly become the antagonist in this knight's tale, or so Milton thought. Seated on the opposite end of the table was a character so sinister, he would most certainly be the Mordred in this picture, accompanied by his overbearing significant other, Lucille. Let's just say, if this were the Garden of Eden on the day man fell into sin, Lucille would play the role of the serpent who tricked Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, for she was the venom that poisoned her husband's mind to believing he could one day take complete control of the company. Lucille would ring in her husband's ears how he was better fit to lead the company, and how he was the one who worked the hardest amongst all senior executives, claiming, if it weren't for his input, King Crustacean would have gone bankrupt many years ago. They had plotted and schemed on numerous occasions to make Milton seem incompetent to run the company, saying his expertise was more tuned to baking than executive decision-making, but every attempt fell to deaf ears. The only reason Alex was still in the company after so many failed attempts was because he was the son of Milton's first partner and mentor, the late and great Joseph Whittaker, an upstanding Christian man and wise venture capitalist. Joseph was the one who saw Milton's potential from the beginning and decided to invest in the bakery when he first inherited it from his Greek Cypriot migrant parents in 1996, then called Mavros Brothers Bakery. Milton was such an exceptionally gifted baker even from his youth. Whenever his hands came into contact with flour, butter, sugar, and any kind of baking condiments, magic pursued. One taste of one of Milton's delicacies got Joseph Whittaker hooked, to the point he felt the only logical thing to do was to invest in the bakery. However, this apple, Alex, so to speak, fell extremely far from the tree, was picked up by a villain, then laced with poison to kill all the animals on the farmland. Alex was a bitter boy. A boy because he usually threw his toys when he didn't eventually get his way, a habit he picked up while growing up, which was never corrected, due to the untimely passing of his mum from endometrial cancer. No one was simply there to correct certain character flaws he had which followed him from boarding school to university, and all the way into his 40s. Milton, however, was oblivious to the extent of their malcontent and treachery, as Alex and Lucille were perfect at keeping up appearances. Lucille would be the first to compliment every new ornament, new car, or new idea Milton or any of the Browns had. This was more of Lucille's defense mechanism to cover up the fact she was burning with covetousness. She had become so good at this that absolutely no one could tell what she was up to, even her own husband, who was unaware she was having an affair with his best friend. Milton finally got into his seat and started settling as he waved at the closest waiter and asked for a drink.
What would that be, sir?
A double shot of Jack Daniels and Coke with maraschino cherries.
Right away, sir.
As the waiter was making a move to get the order, Clyde shows up and takes the seat reserved for him on Milton's right side.
Hey Dad. Hey Xenios. Did I miss anything?
With the intent of not making a second trip, the waiter uses the opportunity to also ask Clyde what he would be having.
And for you, sir? What can I get you this evening?
Can I get a chocolate milkshake, please? What?
Clyde exclaims as he looks at both Milton and Xenios, who are more than a little shocked at his choice of drink given the occasion.
Don't tell me you're going soft on me now.
It's how I choose to celebrate tonight. Plus, I've had so much wine. I have this taste in my mouth I'm trying to get rid of.
Right. I know that feeling. Red wine. Such a creeper.
Mild-mannered Xenios just laughs and turns to his wife, who is engaged in conversation with the person to her left, to tell her he needs to use the restrooms. He stands up and asks to be excused. As soon as Xenios leaves the room, Alex gets up with his glass in one hand, a bread knife in the other, and starts clinging to get everyone's attention for a toast.
At least let me get a proper drink first.
Milton shouts from the other side of the table, getting all the guests to laugh at a bit of communal humor. Luckily, the waiter returns quickly with Milton's drink. To those who didn't know Alex personally, this would seem like a most honorable gesture. But to those who did, say for instance his wife, you would know Alex was an opportunist, and he capitalized on the absence of his long-time silent and most formidable rivals need to make use of the restroom to deliver his toast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this wondrous occasion. I'd like to thank our esteemed hosts, the Browns, for inviting us all, and most especially Lily for putting together such a dazzling fiasco. I am sure each and every one present feels privileged and overwhelmed with joy to be seated amongst the who's who of our great state of New York. I know I am, and I can surely speak for my beautiful wife. I'd like to thank our visitors from Nigeria, China, South Korea, His Royal Excellency from Abu Dhabi, and everyone that traveled all the way to our great state. I'm so glad you could be here with us this evening. Without a doubt, each one of us has shared one or more unforgettable memories with Mr. Milton, and we are glad we were all invited to share this special one with him tonight. 60 years is indeed a significant milestone. Soon enough, I trust you will have some little ones running around here calling you Grandpa. By then you should have passed on the torch and retired to someone best deserving to carry on your legacy. No doubt, whosoever that may be has some very big shoes to fill. I trust when the time comes, you will apply the great wisdom you have acquired over the years as our chairman and leader. But let's leave that now. I guess we will cross that bridge when it arrives. 5 years is still quite a while, and we pray the good Lord grants you good health and a sound mind for all your days with us. My father would be very proud of the man you turn out to be. So, without further ado, if you would raise your glasses and let us toast the man of the evening.
Cheers! The guests reply in unison, as some of them drink and others clap at such a heartfelt speech.
Wow, that was something, babe.
Lucille whispers in Alex's ears as she pretends to give him an affectionate peck on the cheek. He returns on to her other cheek and asks,
Is he looking this way?
Oh yes, my babe. I don't think there is a dry eye in the building. You absolutely nailed it.
He mouths the words, thank you, as they let go, all the time still staring at one another. Just like clockwork, Xenios comes back into the room. He seems hurried up because he probably must have heard the sound of clapping and laughter while he was in the restroom and knew he was missing out. Before he even settles back into his seat, he utters the words,
What did I miss?
Well, Alex just won the Oscar for Best Speech in the Slithery Snake category.
Did he mention anything about retirement?
I think there was something about grandkids running around, big shoes to fill, yada yada yada. He lost me at Ladies and Gentlemen.
Xenios and Clyde share a laugh, but not at the expense of Alex and Lucille, who are staring at them from the other end of the table, knowing the two are more than likely making a mockery of Alex's speech.
I swear, if Milton names one of those sorry losers as his replacement on the board, I will take my gun and blow my brains out.
Don't worry, babe, I'll do us both. You can surely count on that.
Xenios and Clyde notice them staring, but are not quick enough to catch the bad vibes being sent their way, because the couple have displayed their best, made in Taiwan smiles, from their handy bag of pretentious pleasantries, and have sold it to these unsuspecting tourists. The pair exchange smiles and waves, but both parties are not fooled, and this ceasefire is only temporary, valid for one night, due to the nature of the occasion. Meanwhile, somewhere in between all of this, Milton and Lily just so happen to lock eyes, and Milton mouths the words, "courtyard," as he points to his palm in the direction of the courtyard, signaling her to meet him there. At first, she is hesitant and looks around to see if anyone else is getting what he is saying, but he carries on pointing. Lily looks at Bonnie, who is deep in conversation with the Eleftheriades brothers about Stelios's new hair implants. She rolls her eyes and mouths out the word, "Fine." She waits for Milton to make the first move, who is so slick the guests don't even notice he stood up, and only then did she follow his lead. They meet up in the hallway leading to the courtyard. Milton wanted to break the ice before they reached the courtyard and hoped by the time they had gotten there, they would have settled into a conversation.
Hey Lily, how's it going?
I don't know. You tell me. I should rather be asking you. How does it feel to be 60, Father Abraham?
Well, to be honest, I think I might soon need a hip replacement. But other than that, I think I'm fine.
Milton says jokingly, as they both smile.
Well, I guess it's probably from all your runnings with those younger women you pick up at the country club. That's definitely a young man's game you're playing.
Lily suggested, as she went from a smile to a face of discontent. It would seem Milton walked right straight into that one.
I really want to apologize about earlier, Lily. You know how I get when I've had a bit too much champagne to drink.
Milton replied with a sense of deep remorse. This was the first and only time they had had a conversation alone since the funeral of Timothy, a real estate developer and longtime family friend. The grief attached to the sudden passing of Timothy was so intense, it took a heavy toll on the family and severed the relationship between the couple and Timothy's wife, Susan, all with the exception of their children, who still kept tabs on one another. Timothy's wife, Susan, in many ways blamed Milton for the passing of her husband, since it was while on his way to visit Milton that the fatal accident occurred.
Thanks so much for putting this whole surprise party together. I wish Timothy were here. He would have most likely been dressed up in a Batman suit and jumped out of one of these bushes singing the Batman theme song. I couldn't ever wrap my head around how such a grown man could be so fascinated with Batman, to such obscene levels.
They shared a deep laugh which de-intensified the atmosphere.
Well, you know how much Timothy loved anything Batman. I think his only regret in life was watching Dark Knight Rises, or so he said. He really hated that movie.
Lily said while trying to control her laughter.
Oh, Timothy, I really miss that man. He was truly my best friend.
I know. I don't know if Susan will ever get over it. They had finally gotten to a good place in their marriage and had put the past behind them.
I swear it. I'm going to make sure that driver is sentenced to a maximum facility for the rest of his miserable drunken life. Speaking of which, I really wish the state would carry out stricter checks on every truck driver. I can only wonder what we would have done if the kids were in the car with Timothy that night.
Well, Milton, you know, you could always speak to Governor Victor about that, and I'm sure he would consider stricter laws. I mean, like Timothy was also his friend. I'm so surprised he didn't initiate stricter laws after his passing. Must definitely have something to do with the unions.
Yeah, I know, Lily. But what good would that be? It's not like that would bring Timothy back.
Lily walks up closer to Milton in an attempt to empathize and comfort him. She gives him a hug with the intention to be brief, but Milton holds on and wants it to last. It seems clear the two have missed each other's embrace, an embrace that they had both gotten accustomed to during their 24 years of marriage. The brief hug seems to have taken another tone, and what seemed to be a gesture of empathy has ever so quickly turned into something more sensual and intimate. Milton goes in for a kiss. Lily indulges for a brief second, as she had probably been lost somewhere in their deep embrace, or maybe she had been lonely herself for such a while that the thought of being wanted by the only man she had known was so inviting. She let her guard down, for more than she would have liked to, only to be reminded in her subconscious that just about over half an hour ago, Milton was well about to be with another woman without any feelings of remorse.
This is completely wrong on so many levels.
Lily says, feeling like a virgin teenage girl turning down the suggestions of a jock boyfriend to have sex after a drive-in movie. She pulls back and shakes her head as though she was trying to wear off the effects of some spell she had been placed under. Milton acts like a fisherman who just rolled in the big catch of the day, only to loose it again.
What exactly do you think is going on here? Whatever you think you are trying to achieve, please just get out your mind, because it's not happening in a million years. We are divorced. Remember?
Lily, please, hear me out. What if I told you that is the one decision I regret every single day, and whatever woman I try to be with or have been with since then is only an attempt to fill up the void you left when we finally said it was over between us? Maybe it's the alcohol talking, but you know what they say. Drunk men tell no tales.
I've known you, Milton, for more than half of my life, and that's most definitely the alcohol talking. You only do what's comfortable for you, when and where it's convenient. You have never put my feelings into consideration. What's so different now?
Listen, Lily, you are literally the love of my life, the mother of my children. I can't help but think we didn't give our love a second chance.
A second chance? Are you kidding me? A second chance at what exactly? Waiting up countless nights with the kids for you to come home. Having to always explain to them, or should I say, lie to them about the reason their father wasn't coming home. Having to trace your credit card transactions at the bank like a psychopath, only to find out you were spending nights at different hotels. Not to mention the affair with Amanda, your secretary. You made me feel like a mistress while you went off on expensive trips across the world with that blood-sucking leech.
It seems Milton did not think this one all the way through. He probably thought using his birthday as a Trojan horse to penetrate Lily's defenses was a crafty idea. Unfortunately for him, and to his dismay, his approach backfired terribly, and his words had suddenly reopened a can of expired worms buried in a garbage dump. Extreme feelings of pain, heartache, distrust and animosity were rushing all through Lily's body as she was beginning to act rather frantic. Suddenly repulsed by their closeness and proximity, she starts raising her voice and curses Milton, not sparing the use of some rather vulgar language to express herself. Luckily for Milton, they were in the courtyard and the guests inside could not hear them, given they themselves were quite loud and engaged in conversation.
Lily, I'm so sorry. Please forget I even brought any of this up.
With the feeling of extreme stupidity, Milton tries hopelessly to defuse the situation, but it was, however, too late. Lily shoved him aside and started heading towards the coat room to grab her belongings in order to leave the house. Once she had her coat and her bag, she stormed towards the front door, enraged and unappeasable. Milton had rushed right after her in her sway of hysteria, following her like a dog, hoping for a treat all the way to the front of the house, utilizing every attempt to appease her, but the damage had already been done, and Lily only had intentions of taking her leave from the party. She was so enraged, she forgot to say goodbye to the children, or maybe so intentionally, because they were the only ones who could calm her down from her boiling point. And at this instance, she had no intentions of being calmed down. Before she reaches the door, Milton quickly blocks the entrance using his body as a barrage, in his last and final attempt at seeking peace.
Lily, please. I'm so sorry. I know you want to leave, but please, don't leave like this. I didn't mean to get you so upset. I was just trying to let you know that I still care about you, even till this day.
That's the problem with you, Milton. You never mean anything. You are never sincere with words, and you have lost so much of your integrity with me. It's impossible to believe a single word that comes out of your mouth. Please get out of my way. I can't stand to be here any longer.
She shouts as she shoves him out of the way, and he has no choice but to move. There is, however, not much he can do to rectify this situation, and it seems the harder he tries, the worse it gets. Definitely turning out to be one of those, if you love something, let it go type scenarios. Had it been one of those times, way back where Lily would have spontaneously packed her bags, taken the children and left, Milton could bet on the chances she would return. But this time was different. The kids were all grown. She basically had nothing to lose, and this woman was fed up. Just before she finally left the house, she gave Milton a look he had never seen in all the years he knew her. This was the indicator that drew Milton's attention to the fact that this was probably the last time he would see her in a social or jovial setting. The proverbial final nail in the coffin. Milton went outside and stood on the porch, watched her get into her car and drive all the way out of the estate with hopes she would come to her senses, but that never happened. It was quite a distance from the main house to the gate of the premises, and Lily did more than step on the gas as she bolted out of there in a haste. The driveway was filled with the cars of the guests and their drivers, bodyguards and entourage, but Milton paid them no attention as they could clearly see there was heated tension between the two. Milton returns into the house, heads to the guest restroom to wash his face, dashes some of the aftershave available in the closet, and returns to the dining area. Upon his return, he notices the main course had already been served, and everyone was dipping into their various dishes. Lily had gone the extra mile to ensure there was cuisine from all over the world, from Italian, Mexican, Chinese, Indian to West African and Caribbean. The quality and service at the party was equivalent to a top 3 Michelin star restaurant in Paris. Everything was placed and served to perfection. All across the room were nods and smiles of deep satisfaction, as the guests had all seemed to quiet down to enjoy their meals. Everyone seemed to be enjoying their food, except Lucille, who seemed to be playing with a plate of vegetables. She seemed to be rather unsettled about something. Milton's absence from the table hadn't gone unnoticed by the couple, who probably thought Lily and Milton stepped aside to discuss Alex's speech. She watched Milton return to his seat, and then all of a sudden, her mood went from that of worrisome uncertainty to one of excitement after he realized Milton had a sad gloom on his face, and Lily was nowhere to be found. Knowing the couple ever so well, she deduced they had most definitely gotten into a fight, and Lily left abruptly, which eventually removes all suspicions of a two-a-side gossip session from Lucille's mind. The night went on as planned. Although Bonnie and Clyde had their reservations as to what happened to their mum, they kept it cool and just let it slide, knowing the limits of drama had already been exhausted for one evening, and there was no further need to stress things. Both drawn to the conclusion their parents must have gotten into an argument, which led to their mother's sudden absence. And they were not surprised in the least, for it was just a matter of time till they found a way to get alone together and utter the kind of words which were better thrown under a watery bridge and allowed to drift with course of the tide to an unknown destination rather than being given the time of day. At one point in the evening, Bonnie stood up and headed straight to the kitchen, acting like she had some business in there to attend to. However, when she came back to the table, she sat in the center chair on the opposite side of the table where Lily was sitting before she left, as it had become quite obvious to the other guests she had left the party, But proactive Bonnie used this to save face, and when she took her place, it wasn't such a big deal anymore, and the party could go on from then. After dinner and countless rounds of drinks, some of the guests started taking their leave. It was a Thursday, which left one more working day in the week, which became the common excuse some guests used, claiming they had to be up early the next day to clock in. However, before Mr. Eong Pang took his leave, Alex managed to orchestrate a little meeting with the Asian businessman. He stole Milton for a while from the other guests, and the three of them, along with Mr. Peng's translator, had a small window to discuss business briefly, with regards to the acquisition meeting of the well-known Golden Panda Noodles Company, which was rumored to be currently facing bankruptcy, and its need for a bailout plan through the liquidation of its major shares. The acquisition meeting was set for the Friday of the following week, meaning Milton and Alex would have to fly down to Beijing on Thursday. Milton raised his concerns about the status of the coronavirus pandemic, which was rumored to still be infecting some of China's population, even though their government had announced there were now 0 incidences and the virus had been put under full control. Mr. Pang reassures Milton that the virus had been completely eradicated from the general public and rumored cases were in the outskirts of Tibet, which bore no threat to their business proceedings. Soon after their meeting, Mr. Pang and his Asian entourage pronounced their departure, but also insisted Milton accompany them outside to receive his birthday gift, which Mr. Pang had specially arranged on the behalf of himself and his partners. Mr. Pang handed over a small box that read, "Happy Birthday, Mr. Milton Brown." Without hesitation, Milton opened it, and inside was the key to an Aston Martin. Given that Milton was a collector of Aston Martins and had almost every model produced, from the DB7, DB9, Vulcan, DBS, Vanquish, 177 to the more classic Virage, and his most prized one of them all, an Aston Martin DB6, which was one of the cars Sean Connery used during the filming of Goldfinger, this was a perfect and well-thought-of gift. They make their way into the garage, and parked somewhere to the center is what looks like an SUV, concealed in a vehicle cover. Milton pressed the button on the key, and his attention was drawn to the lights blinking plus the sound of the horn. Mr. Pang does the honors of revealing a beautiful oxblood Aston Martin DBX SUV.
What's really astonishing here is how you guys were able to get this car into the garage without my knowledge. I can smell Clyde had something to do with this. You know, I saw this car in an auto shop the other day, and it really caught my eye. I was going to ask them how much it cost to get it, but I never really got the time to do so. Now you're telling me one belongs to me? I guess that's the power of positive manifestation.
Mr. Peng's assistant follows up with a direct translation as Milton gestures his joy.
把这辆车开进车库，我感觉克莱德跟这事儿有关系。你知道吗？前几天我在一家汽车修理厂看到这辆车，它真的吸引了我的眼球。我本来想问他们花了多少钱买的，但一直没时间问。现在你又说这辆车是我的，我想这就是积极表现的力量吧。
Milton was so delighted. He shook Mr. Peng's hands and pulled him in for a hug, barely putting into consideration the fact that Mr. Peng was not much of an emotional or touchy-feely kind of man. Mr. Peng's bodyguard wanted to interfere, but Mr. Peng waves him off, which was to the surprise of the other members of his entourage, who knew him as quite a strict individual. Mr. Peng had either started becoming soft or understood Milton was elated by his gift, and was only allowing this hug to happen knowing Milton would soon be the saving grace their struggling fast food company desired. Mr. Peng had been instructed by his partners to do everything necessary to ensure Milton came on board with the acquisition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peng. Your gift is most generous and truly appreciated. I wish I had something to give you in return.
非常感谢彭先生，您的礼物非常慷慨，我由衷的感谢您。真希望我能给您回赠一些东西。
His translator conveys his gratitude. Mr. Peng smiles, takes a bow, and says the words he believed Milton could use to convey his gratitude.
在北京 In Beijing.
In Beijing. Yes. Yes. I will most definitely see you in Beijing, and I will bring you something you will love. Thank you so much.
Mr. Peng and his entourage make their way to their vehicles and exit the premises. Alex uses the opportunity to have a word with Milton before he makes his way.
Wow. Milton, you are one lucky man. I wonder how he got his hands on this model. It only just came out, and it's in such a nice color as well. This shade of red is my absolute favorite. When are you taking her out for a spin?
I would have loved to right now, but I've had quite a lot to drink tonight, and I'm more than likely to get a ticket for DUI.
I most certainly hear you there. Anyway, Lucille and I will be heading home now. Say, whatever happened to Lily? She kinda went MIA, mid-party.
Yeah, she wasn't feeling too good, so she went on and called it a night.
Oh, I see. When you do see her, please thank her from the both of us. It was a pleasure to be here tonight.
Alex says, with a hint he knows the exact reason she left. Milton proceeds to walk Alex all the way to his car, as they engage in some more small talk about the Mr. Peng's most generous gift and the need to close the deal.
I will most certainly do, Alex. All right, Lucille. You guys should drive carefully now. Thanks once again for coming.
Milton helps Lucille close her door, takes a step back while they head on out of the driveway. He gives a final wave goodbye as they take off. After a short while, Milton returns indoors to meet only a handful of people left, however not surprising. It certainly seems like a large number of his guests had used the opportunity to leave while he received his gift from Mr. Peng in the garage, most of who left without saying goodbye. He notices the Eleftheriades brothers and their lady companions dancing on one end of the room like the party had just begun, the jazz band who were in the process of packing up their equipment, and on one end, his children. Milton, with a last boost of energy, heads straight to Bonnie and Clyde, who was sitting in the corner of the living area.
Hey, you two. How's it hanging? That was some party. Thanks for putting it all together. You guys are the best kids in the whole wide world.
Yeah. Dad, that was some night. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Just a little exhausted. You know how I get after these parties.
So what happened with you? And Mom? I see she disappeared after you guys snuck off like high schoolers.
Well, you know your mom. She gets quite erratic every time she and I are in the same room.
Well, knowing you, Dad, you're the only person on earth that can push Mom's buttons like that.
They all shared a laugh as Bonnie went into her dad's arms to snuggle.
Happy birthday, Dad. I love you so much.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Thanks, guys. You know, you guys being here is the best birthday gift yet. By the way, did you see my new ride?
He dangles the key and Clyde snatches it, leading to a race towards the driveway to check the ride out.
Hey, Clyde, get back here this instant.
End of Chapter 1. An Ode to Milton Brown. Thank you kindly for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Sentient Literature channel. Chapter 2 will follow soon.